As a dynamic teacher, Jeff McBride is markedly influencing future generations of magicians. But his influence can also be traced back through time to mystic seers who predate his own body of work. The proof of this was established by an Argentine wizard of words named Jorge Luis Borges. Allow me to explain. As a founder of magical realism, Borges erased the line separating the real from the fantastic. He envisioned time as a grand labyrinth. In fact, he believed in an infinite series of times, a growing, dizzying net of divergent, convergent, even parallel times. This network of times, approaching one another, forking, breaking off, perhaps even unaware of one another for centuries, embraces all possibilities of existence. One of Borges' most eccentric pastimes was something he never actually got around to doing, namely a study of Franz Kafka's Precursors. Kafka's works of magical realism and existentialism continue to be the most influential in Western literature. There are more dissertations written about Kafka than any other author, save Shakespeare. Borges originally considered Kafka to be as singular as the phoenix of rhetorical praise. But after frequenting Kafka's works, he came to recognize Kafka's voice in diverse literatures and periods. Now, Borges never formally documented his research, save for some notes about the Kafkaesque elements in the following 6 sources. Number 1, Zeno's paradox against movement. A moving object at A can never reach point B, because first it must cover half of the distance between the 2 points, and before that, half of the half, and before that, half of the half of the half, and so on into infinity. This is exactly the problem in Kafka's novel, The Castle. Number 2, Han Yu's apologue, a 9th century fable about how everyone knows that a unicorn is a supernatural being of good omen. But because it does not figure amongst domestic beasts, it's not easy to find and it resists classification. So we could be face to face with a sacred animal and not be certain what it was. Number 3, Kierkegaard's religious writings, such as the Danish North Pole expeditions. Danish ministers declare that such expeditions are beneficial to the soul's eternal well-being, yet they admit that such trips are difficult and perhaps even impossible. Finally, they announce that any trip, let's say from Copenhagen to London, is, properly considered, an expedition to the North Pole. Number 4, Browning's poem Fear and Scruples of 1876, in which a man believes he has a famous friend. Now, he's never seen this friend, nor been helped by him, but tales are told of the friend's noble traits and authentic letters circulate about. Then one day someone calls these traits into doubt, and handwriting experts deem the letters to be apocryphal. The man asks in the last line, "And if this friend were God?" Number 5, Leon Bloy's Histories, which relate the case of some people who have any number of maps and globes and atlases, railroad guides and trunks, but who never manage to leave their hometowns before they die. And number 6, Lord Dunsany's fantasy story, in which an invincible army of warriors leaves an infinite castle, conquers kingdoms, crosses deserts, scales mountains, fights monsters, but never manages to reach the city glimpsed from afar. So we see that Borges found many pieces that resemble Kafka, but not all of them resemble each other. In each piece, he found Kafka's idiosyncrasy to a greater or lesser degree. But had Kafka never written a line, then no one would perceive the Kafkaesque quality. It wouldn't exist. Borges found works that foretold Kafka's writings, but he observed that our knowledge of Kafka noticeably sharpens and deflects our reading of them. Put another way, those earlier authors did not read their works the way we do now. Borges concluded that every writer creates his own precursors, modifying our conception of the past as well as the future. The world, according to Jeff McBride, like that of Kafka, is certainly unique. And yet we can see McBride's precursors in the world of art. Unmistakable McBride-esque moments jump out at us from engravings carved long before McBride himself took to the stage. With our knowledge of McBride's body of work, we can't help labeling these other works as McBride-esque. And indeed, we're tempted to trace McBride's effect on art backward through time. Here now are some examples of McBride's precursors. In 2000, Jeff McBride shocked the world with his illusion show Abracadazzle. Those shockwaves went back in time to 1556, influencing the engravings of Renaissance visionary Claude Paradin. In Paradin's engraving, a chalice is filled from a transcendent source, a celestial hand. The chalice, of course, recalls the Holy Grail, symbolizing a spiritual quest involving sacrifice. Now, the magician's hand is empty. To fill the chalice, he must tap an inner wellspring. In another Paradin engraving from the same year, celestial hands break free from handcuffs. Our higher powers cannot be shackled. In McBride's presentation, the captive escapes his chains and sees that his captor is the true prisoner. McBride brings a small chest to the stage, symbolizing the microcosm containing the macrocosm. Paradin illustrates this truth in 1556. Inside the chest are the linking rings. Inside the circle is nothingness. Inside the circle is the universe, the magic of light and dark and life and death. McBride displays one ring, symbolic of a self-supporting, unbroken commitment to the eternal circle of existence. In mythologist Vincenzo Cartari's illustration of 1571, we see an alchemist holding the Ouroboros, the oldest mystical symbol in the world. It's the cosmic serpent swallowing its own tail, symbolic of the cyclicality of the universe, eternal renewal. McBride manifests a bouquet of feather flowers, just as in Paradin's engraving in 1556. From dormant branches, spring blossoms. McBride, as Merlin, finds a future King Arthur in the audience to teach the mystery of the miser's dream. In Paradin's engraving, a celestial hand pours endless coins onto a knight's helmet. Spiritual affluence self-renews. In McBride's signature flying cards extravaganza, the 52 archetypes of the deck spin through the air. Sometimes the hand of fate deals an unexpected twist. In 1697, Lauren's Chroniger depicts a Queen of Hearts floating in the air, literally a woman's cameo in a heart shape, levitating. McBride's Fan and Butterflies presentation addresses themes of emergence and transformation. A butterfly emerges from its cocoon, its wings fanned and uplifted by the power of belief. The great lesson here is that transformation gains strength through dedication. Paradin immortalized this mystery in 1563. McBride's signature Streamers from the Hand depicts the profound truth that energy travels in the direction we cast it, supporting our desired outcomes. The English rector Henry Peacham depicted a divine hand shooting streamers in 1612. Similarly, we have Paradin's engraving of a cane that explodes in streamers and confetti and sparks, another McBride signature. The flaming sword or wand is symbolic of how the light of perfect wisdom dispels ignorance. Paradin depicted this in 1556. The beat of a shaman's drum summons a presence from beyond and echoes a cosmic heartbeat. Emblem artist Prince Carl's 1677 engraving shows celestial hands beating a drum. Following a miraculous feat, manna from heaven. McBride's signature snowstorm is depicted in Paradin's engraving of 1556. A magic mirror reveals the masks of one's personae. In Paradin's engraving of 1563, the mirror is like a halo over the figurine's head, reflecting his spiritual nature. When we see the final mask, we see the true face beneath, the skull. This is depicted by Johann Caspar Lavater in 1775. McBride's signature water bowls presentation communicates the lesson that one drop at a time, an empty bowl fills with water. This truth was illustrated by Jakob Wolf von Pforzheim in 1501. Finally, in McBride's grand levitation of his assistant, a maiden floats between two pillars, hanging in balance between the polarities of nature. In Guillaume Rovie's engraving of 1574, the two-tailed mermaid represents the dark side of the Greek love goddess Aphrodite, her two thrashing tails symbolizing the birth and death of her affections, reminding us of how instinctive energy comes from a deep, unconscious part of ourselves. as the maiden rises, McBride takes one of the poles as his own, further communicating the dualities of masculine and feminine. Now, the secret of Jeff McBride's mastery of time is simple, though by no means easy. He who illuminates the present in his own terms redefines the past. In applause, as in prayer, hands come together when opposites unite. Thank you.